The views and opinions expressed by this program's hosts, guests, listeners, and viewers are solely the views and opinions of the original source who expresses them. They do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of TV5 Network Incorporated, its subsidiaries and affiliates, and their respective stockholders, directors, officers, and employees.
Sounding off from Los Angeles, the undisputed king of podcasting, who's all about the good times, Mo Twister. Representing New York City, a social media mobster and co-creator of the Not Bill Walton Twitter feed, Chris Savage. All the way from Sydney, Australia, a basketball media veteran and unapologetic cultural critic, Bradford Graham. Holding it down from Manila, a seasoned sportscaster with the studio skills to pay the bills, Gino Rufino. This is Full Court Report.
All right, welcome to the Full Court Report. We are back with a brand new episode. We are four guys in four different cities. My name is Mo. I'm in the West Coast. We have Chris Savage in New York. We have Brad in New York as well, Brad Graham. And in studio is Gino Rufino, Metro Manila, Philippines. Fellas, let's get to it. We've got a lot of topics to discuss here, and first quarter duties belong to myself. Let me put 12 minutes on the clock, and of course, clearly lead the show with another Golden State Warriors loss. Again, this especially hit pretty hard because they went up against the worst team in the Western Conference and lost to them. Are they the worst team? No, second worst team.
They're not the worst.
You're right.
Team.
I'm looking at last year's.
Don't take that title away from my team.
Yeah, third worst team in the Western Conference. I'm sorry, my fault.
Don't diss my boy Karl Anthony Towns. Don't do that.
That's right. Yeah, how dare me? But anyway, still, they should have won the game. Clearly, they lost, and now their run for 73 boils down to having to win all of the remaining four games. Of course, there are a lot of questions being thrown out there by the fan base, by the media as well. Is it worth going after the record, putting in this much effort against these teams late in the regular season, and not really just kind of resting these guys for the big playoff run?
Yeah, please. Say, I don't even think that now it's even a debate for these Warriors. I think that they have lost their ability to make that decision now. They just have to play for it and play hard because it's a situation now where maybe there was a choice. Maybe, hey, do we rest? Do we go for the record? Now, maybe they should just rest. I don't even know if the record's in play anymore. What are they at now, like 18, 20% to get this record? I mean, losing to Minnesota in overtime really changed their not only ability to dominate at home, but I think it changed a lot of how we feel about this Warriors team.
I'm a little confused because in my mind, I think now they have to kind of go for the record, but not really with the record in mind, but make sure that they get into the playoffs looking good. Are you saying that they need to rest these guys because they need the rest for the playoffs?
No, what I'm saying is that the record's no longer a cakewalk like it looked like it was going to be 2 weeks ago. I think that we've seen this team fall a little flat. They've faltered a little. They may have, quote-unquote, bored with the regular season. I think that they now have to protect themselves bigger picture, which is don't burn out trying to get this record because they've got to win every game from here on out, and it's not like it's an easy road to get there. So I would now say that take the foot off the accelerator, think about what you need to be doing for the playoffs, and don't sort of necessarily freak out that you might not.
But what do they need to do? What do they need to do for the playoffs? I mean, you said like play these games, with the intent of winning all four and not resting these guys. What do they need to do? What do they need to work out? What are the weaknesses that you saw against Minnesota?
Well, I mean, Chris and I have sort of believed this for a long time now. The Minnesota team can take down anybody because of their athleticism. There's one example of where this team can actually be beaten by a team that's just more athletic than they are. The Warriors aren't the most athletic team in the NBA. Another case is they get sort of, guys like Greg Monroe or LaMarcus Aldridge or like exceptionally skilled sort of low post players, which kind of makes their small ball approach a little vulnerable. I mean, be careful when and how they actually do what they do. And I'm not saying that they're becoming predictable, but I definitely think teams have now had a full 80 games or thereabouts to actually scout against them, find little weaknesses, find little cracks, and in tandem with that fatigue and their ability to sort of take the hits because they are getting everybody's back. But I think actually wearing on them. And I think that you can see that in the way that they're dealing with the press, the way that they feel the hype sort of creeping in, and the way that they feel they need to protect the product and the brand and go out there and try to win these games, but do so on their terms, which might not necessarily be as easy as we once thought it was.
Hey Mo, you were asking about what to do and manage the team here, what they have to do down the stretch. But we're talking about weaknesses as well. The Warriors don't have a lot. I will agree with Brad and say that the big athletic big man is giving them trouble, especially to the small lineup, which is their strength. So that's something to worry about. But you talk about managing the team down the strength. That's Steve Kerr's call. He can't let anyone get in the way of, hey, I want to go for this record. I want to do this. He's got to figure out who it is. Specifically, you see a situation like Draymond Green talking about they're getting mixed up in the hype, or he's bored. I don't even know what that means, but maybe he needs to take a look at that. Right now, he needs to make tough decisions. Going for the record cannot be the number one priority. Bottom line, it can't be.
Well, it doesn't look. It's impossible they're bored. I mean, maybe they lost a little bit of concentration with a 17-point lead in the second half, and then losing to the young Wolves. But you look at you have the Spurs. The Spurs and Memphis again. The remaining schedule for the Dubs, and they need to sweep this in order to be able to get the record. And we said it last time. I mean, it's a cliche, and it's the way they have to look at it, one game at a time. Because if they think too much about these last 4 games, it's mentally draining. I mean, you could imagine how mentally draining it has been for them. Every time they get closer and closer and closer to the record, and right now, when it's they see the light at the end of the tunnel. I can't imagine how much, I wouldn't say pressure, but more mental fatigue it is, more than anything else. The mental fatigue of having to think about that record is starting to.
Well, I mean, don't you want to go all out here though? Because if you think about it, in the first round, say they clean up in the first round, second round they might face Memphis. That's quite a possibility. If they've got 2 games against Memphis coming up in the next 4, this is a great way for you to gauge your strength against this team. And then after that, this is a possible Western Conference Final matchup with the San Antonio Spurs. Again, you want to go all out again and gauge how you fare against them while it still doesn't count. In the process, edging out your game, making sure you guys go into the playoffs with a lot of momentum, because Draymond said in his quote, they don't want to stumble into the playoffs. So I think you take these next 4 games as important games that you play all out. You don't rest your guys. You give them the minutes as if it were a big game. I don't see how a bunch of young guys like this can be really that tired. Maybe it's just much ado about nothing here. They're 7-3 in their last 10. They're not Cleveland that maybe have lost like 4 out of 5, or the Thunder who may have lost a couple.
They have not had a 10-game streak or a 10-game sort of set like this all year long. The whole point that they're 7-3 is that's uncharted waters for them.
Yeah, I don't think they're physically tired at all.
It's not uncharted waters in a sense that this is not the first time that this group of guys were together. I'm sure they've had stretches like this in the past.
But it's
last season, the season.
First time in 114 games, where they blew a 15-point lead.
Grown men, professional athletes. You think that this is going to rattle them that much? I mean, really?
We're talking about
this
grown
is
men.
Cream of the crop player.
We're talking about grown men who had a 15-point lead last night, and you want to say, well, maybe they're not mentally fatigued, maybe they are. The way they were playing that game down the stretch of almost trying to put on a show and throwing turnovers left and right would tell me a little bit, maybe they're not as focused. So I would, again, Steve Kerr needs to take a look at that. Maybe he needs to rest some of these guys, or maybe he needs to make an example of some of these guys and show, hey, we need to go in the playoffs strong. If you're going to throw around turnovers and stupid situations, you're sitting. I don't know what he needs to do, but what I saw last night, I did not see a top-level team, one of the greatest teams of all time, though they can be.
Sure. All right. Now, again, more talk of trying to achieve certain kind of records. Steph Curry gave a kind of interesting quote. I don't know if he was 100% serious about this, just because it sounded a little weird to me, but he said, if he has a chance at hitting 400 3-pointers this season, he's on pace to do it. He's at 382 right now, so he only needs to hit 4.5 in the remaining 4 games, which he averages at 5 3-point makes per game. So he's clearly on pace. But if he's at 399, he's just going to start chucking threes. And it kind of struck me as a bit weird of a quote, because it sounded so individually, like a little bit of selfish kind of quote, saying, hey, if there's a chance at this record, I'm going to be yanking threes. Now, he does that anyway. I think he's taking like 11 threes per game anyway. But boy, does that kind of rub you guys off the wrong way, where considering the struggles of this team, you have your star player saying, if I have a chance at 400, give me the ball and I'm going to chuck for 400.
I love it. I love the fact that he's. I mean, maybe he was half joking, but you know what? If your best offensive weapon, if it's within sight as well. I mean, if I was Curry, I would have said the same thing. I mean, I love the fact that he's confident about it. I love the fact that he's a little bit humorous about it. I love the fact that the record, it's there. The possibility of him achieving that goal is actually within sight, and he can do it. So I mean, it's why not? Why not do it?
Yeah, I do have a problem with it when someone is thinking that way, but I also appreciate it more for people who are thinking that way and actually come out and say it. So I do respect that, but I'm not surprised either. I mean, this team has proven that they want a lot of accolades, not just as a team, but this regular season, they're going for things. Why wouldn't they be going for some regular season accolades as well?
But it's not a they record though. It's a he record, which I think is
the product.
Right. But you get my point here. Like, listen, I want Steph to get 400. I love Steph, but to make it so much about the individual, where the line exactly he said is, if I get to 399, I will chuck. That's the only thing I can guarantee. There's a lot of kind of selfish wording there that even me, as big of a Steph Curry fan as I am, it kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Step back.
But listen, don't worry, I'm relaxed. Yes, sir. Go ahead, therapist.
Right, I was going to say, in this case, he has the backing of his teammates. They love and adore him, and they know he's the leader, and he's doing it for fun purposes at a time where it might not actually matter for their seeding and other things. If it cost them victories, then maybe they might have an issue with it. But, Draymond Trace, went after those triple doubles. Steph going after 400, it might be a record that stands for 50 years. I'm sure they support him. So, again, Steph saying it might be an oddity because we haven't seen him do these sort of proclamations before. But if he gets it, good for him. I mean, why not? Why not be in the record books?
Mo, if he went into this year saying, I want to win another MVP, would you have had a problem with that?
No, I wouldn't, but because that's it, I think it's a different kind of mentality when you say I'm at 399, I'm 1 3-pointer away. The game could be on the line, and I'm going to start chucking. Now, Steve Kerr said recently, also as a quote, real quick, and I'll get back to you. Steve Kerr said, "Hey, listen, records are going to be broken. Championships, those last forever." And I think what Kerr was trying to say here is, guys, let's ease up on the record talk, whether it be the 73 or the 399 or any other kind of record that people are kind of putting on our plate. And let's just concentrate on the championship. And then you get your star players saying, oh, no, I'm going to guarantee you something. I'm going to throw up threes. Maybe they're not on the same page. Maybe this goes back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago, that this team might have different individual goals and different goals as a team together that might be kind of ruining things. Yep.
Right, but there was a time when Larry Bird was shooting left-handed because he got bored during games and he wanted to do things that sort of were challenging for him. I mean, throughout NBA history, we've seen the elite of the elite have to challenge themselves. Wade and LeBron talked about this game within a game. I mean, we've got a long sort of history of these guys getting to a point in the season, 80 games deep, where they just want to get on with business, which is the playoffs. And so for Steph to do this, hey, if he was at 200 threes and he said, I'm going to try to get to 400 in the last week, then we have a problem. But he's so close. Him getting there, it's not out of context. He's going to shoot these threes anyway. He's going to make a large percentage of them because he's Steph Curry. So again, it's not like Draymond's going for the 400 threes record. So, I just say let him gun, let him see where he ends up, and let him make history in the process, and we can just sit back and enjoy it.
Remember when Michael Jordan would shoot free throws with his eyes closed?
Guys, I get it. They haven't clinched the conference yet, though. These 4 games are rather important. I mean, they can get caught. As unlikely as it is,
they need to win one game to clinch the conference.
You're talking about, wait a minute, Mo. Last episode, you're asking me if this is the greatest regular season team of all time.
Okay, again, you're swimming in that pool that you like taking a dip in, which is called the fallacy pool. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now. All right. I got 30 seconds left, but there's a quote I wanted to throw out real quick. Maybe I'll just do it now. We don't have to talk about it, but it is an interesting one, and I have to put it out. Recently, Shaquille O'Neal confessed that he's upset that he did not get the farewell tour. And in fact, upset wasn't even the word. He said, "I'm super jealous. I wanted a Shaq tour, man. I never said this, but it's killing me to see Kobe get all this farewell tour love and he didn't get one."
First of all, Shaq.
All right, let's call timeout. Let's call timeout because let's call timeout, and it's all you. Yeah, go ahead.
Shaq played for multiple teams, chased rings, did all these things, stayed in the spotlight. What do you mean Shaq didn't have a farewell tour? Shaq stayed around 5 years longer than he should have. Of course he had a farewell tour. He just didn't get it in the most pathetic way possible, which is like Kobe's doing it. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Shaq's farewell tour started after he left the Lakers. As soon as Miami, but that was his farewell tour. Miami, Phoenix.
He specifically brought something up here, Gino. He said, I wanted to go to each city and people see me play my last game. And because I didn't get to do that, it's killing me.
Well, because he also went out with an injury, right? I mean, he had his foot injury, and after that, he was never the same. And that's what forced him into retirement. And
Dude,
it happened.
Kobe's injured. He's got more injuries than Shaq does. But
he announced before the season he was retiring. Game over. He would have gone on like Kareem and Kobe.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. We got to get out of here. Taking a break. When we come back, we have more of the full court report. Second quarter coming up. Back after this.
A Sports5.ph original web show.
My name is Dominic Uy, and this is my buddy Kevin Limhoco.
We are going to be testing products to their nth degree, to their limits.
Cars.
How many car makers are not equipped with power steering?
Gadgets.
You feel the value of that watch.
And everything in between.
I don't like to pamper myself except in a restaurant.
This is the web show for the modern man.
Oh, let's go!
Nth degree. Catch it exclusively on Sports5.ph.
All right, welcome back to the Full Court Report. We have quarter number 2, and Chris Savage in New York City in charge of it. Chris, 12 minutes. All you, brother.
All right, fellas. Right now, as we record this, the Houston Rockets and Dallas Mavericks are going head-to-head for really one of the last playoff spots. If the Rockets win, they will be tied for the 7th seed with the Mavericks. If they lose, they will be 2 behind the Mavericks and 1 behind the Jazz for the 8th spot. The Rockets, though, regardless of what they've been doing from a win-loss standpoint, have been receiving a tremendous performance from James Harden. Even better than he's put together all season long. It's like he woke up and realized, hey, enough screwing around. It's time to really get serious. And the importance of this is if James Harden misses the playoffs, this is a guy who was second in MVP voting last year. This is a guy who brought his team to the Western Conference Finals. If he misses the playoffs, it's a huge stain on who he is. So this is very important for him, and he's really kicking it up a notch. Almost 30 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds, shooting 47% in the last 10 games, and right around those numbers for the entire month of March. They're not winning. They're not going way ahead, not breaking away. Despite these numbers from Harden, is it mostly the other team, the rest of his team that's really not producing? Or is it just, again, the leadership skills we talked about from Harden, the lack of defense he plays, not being a team player, maybe
Chris,
holding the ball too much for the possessions?
All right, let me just say that from my point of view, it appears to me as though Harden is doing all this so nobody can put the blame of their dysfunctional season on him. Like, this kind of reeks as kind of some sort of desperate attempt by Harden to say, look, man, I played hard. Look what I did at the end of the year. I tried to get us into the playoffs, and it seems like it's some sort of weird distraction mechanism. Credit to him because he is playing well, and it seems like the James Harden of old. It's like he jumped in that Bill and Ted's phone booth and he's gone back and sort of resurrected himself. But in this case, for me, it just sort of reeks of more of what's actually happening in Houston, which is they do have macro problems. Harden's performance, I think, underscores that because seeing him do this now reminds us that he hasn't been doing it for 70 games. And so it's like, well, Harden, this might be a little too late. If they get in, hey, they obviously have the firepower to take on anyone. But now it just seems like once they're desperate, they're killing it. Prior to that, it's like, I don't know, maybe they just needed that smell of desperation in the locker room before they all kind of looked at each other and thought, holy hell, we have a real chance to, watch the playoffs from home.
Absolutely. Now, does his game fit within the concept, or would he be better suited? I know they're going to blow up the team next year, but let's just focus first on them getting to the playoffs this year. Is his game better suited that he takes point guard responsibilities? You have KJ McDaniels, you have Patrick Beverly, who can obviously stick the better offensive players and kind of hide him defensively. But just from the way he plays his game, where he's controlling so much of the ball, would he be better served if he actually played most, if not all, of the game at the point guard position?
Nobody else would get buckets. but I mean, he handles the ball enough.
He's kind of doing it right now.
He's averaging 10 assists per game.
Seems like he's doing it right now.
Yeah, that's right. His stats don't indicate that he's that much of a ball hog. I mean, the visual test looks like he wants to jack threes, but the truth is he's getting close to double-digit assists. No other shooting guard does that. I mean, I'm not saying that he's like a LeBron light, but there are examples of James Harden being their most gifted playmaker, and therefore you need the ball in his hands more often than not. And you need him, putting up the shots, creating shots for others, and being, disruptive to the defense. And he gets into the lane, and he has his Euro step, and he does his travels, and he does all the things that, crafty players do. So again, it's this whole thing about.
But it doesn't translate into wins, though, and I think the reason why is because he's too much of a playmaker. The usage rate is too high for James Harden. And yes, he's getting these sexy assist totals, but that's because he's got the ball in his hands 21 seconds the entire time, the entire possession, then drives, and then he's either going to dish or he's going to throw a shot up.
Here's the difference. Westbrook does the same thing, except he's got Durant to help him look good.
Yes.
Harden doesn't have that player by his side. He's got to do it on his own. But what I would do if I was the Rockets, I'd move Harden to small forward, get the ball completely out of his hands, and only let him set up in the half court. Like let someone else bring it up the floor, have him cut, get a few sort of movements happening away from the ball, get him moving more off the ball so that you can get him easier shots and teammates in positions to
and
score
when he
more
cries
effectively.
and complains, your solution then, sir?
Yep. No, well, you sit down before the season starts. You tell him this is the new strategy. This is what the coach wants to implement. We're going to basically boost your numbers. We're going to boost your ratage, your usage, and we're going to get you in a position where you're not only more effective, but you're going to look better, and less people are going to criticize you for doing the things that you're doing now. And I guarantee you, the egomaniacal James Harden says, "Let's roll the dice to see how it works. After 5 games, if it's not working, I'm going to go back to playing point guard Harden."
Okay.
But it's got to be worth the roll of the dice, because if they're going to keep doing the things the way they're doing it, this Rockets team's going to be irrelevant in another year from now. So why would you want to put yourself in the same position? It's clearly broken. It needs to be fixed. Experiment a little. Like stop sort of, follow the Warriors lead or the Spurs lead in some way. Like do things that no one else is doing. Mix it
Well,
up.
he would have to play defense first, but okay.
Well, right. But if he's not going to, find other ways to make him more effective offensively.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Well, the Rockets still have a chance to make the playoffs, and I think they actually I do think that they're gonna make it. I mean, you look at the Grizzlies right now. I know they're sitting number 5? They're sitting 5th right now in the playoff standings. But you look at the remaining schedule of the Grizzlies. You're looking at Dallas, Golden State, Clippers, and Golden State again. I mean, all these teams that are going to be facing are teams that are technically playing for something. And I think that they're going to actually drop off. And the Rockets will take that 8th spot, and the Grizzlies, as strange as it seems, will continue to slide and possibly out of the playoffs.
So you think, Gino, you think the Grizzlies are going to lose 4 straight?
It's possible.
And that all the teams,
wow,
they're playing, that's
bolder than small forward for Harden. That's really bold.
Well, I mean, the Memphis they do have to play the Warriors too of those last 4 for them. So I mean, they're going to have to.
The other team has to. The teams have to win too. I mean,
the other teams have to win, but it's
mathematically possible, sure.
Yeah.
Of course, absolutely. So you're saying there's a chance.
I don't know.
But anyway,
I think Dallas is more
likely
likely to miss than Memphis.
Yes.
I think Memphis still gets in somehow, some way.
Listen,
even if
I
teams
said this about
players.
teams getting in the playoffs. When it comes down to a few, the team with a superstar gets in. I think the Rockets will get in. But Brad, you brought up that James Harden's playing lights out because he doesn't want the blame on him. Next year, it's all him. They're going to build the franchise based on what they decide he's going to be. Whether he's going to be the point guard who needs maybe a spot-up three-point shooter, a shooting guard near him that they need to pick up. Stay in his role now and take a look at the wing position to replace Ariza. Or he goes to small forward himself. So what are they looking to do next year? What should Harden be his most ideal position, and how should they build around? What should they do to build around him going into next year?
Oh man, I mean, it's Clint Capella's a talent. They've got guys there that I think could work with Harden. It just seems to be they need to find the personalities that either he likes, wants to run alongside him. It seems to be more about character now than it does about any sort of one specific role. And I think that's the trouble now with a team like the Rockets is, in much the same way that Sacramento's got DeMarcus and there's issues around him in terms of finding incompatible people, they got to do the same thing. You've got to tread lightly with James Harden. You don't want to upset him because he's out there on the court and he's going to demand a lot. And obviously the fans want to see him doing James Harden things. The Rockets fan base seems to love him. So it's just one of these cases where the franchise has to tread lightly because it is the superstar league, and Harden is in a position where he can dictate a lot of the terms. I mean, if they bring Bickerstaff back, then he might just basically fold to everything that Harden wants. I think what they need to do is start with a really strong-willed, head coach that's going to basically implement things and tell Harden, suck it up. This is how we're going to play ball this season. And we're going to get away from what you do. You can do that in patches. You can do that when the reserves are out there and you can beat up the second unit, but we're going to try things a little differently. And I think what you'll see is you'll either see James step up or you'll see him step back. And I think we're going to see who he really is next season. I think the real James Harden reveals himself next season.
Yes, it's a very critical season for him next year. That's undoubtedly.
It's huge. Pendulum could absolutely swing either way. He could fall into the mellow class, great player, but just not an accomplished winner. Or he could, take the reins and become this, unbeatable sort of scoring guard and join the upper echelon, not only this year, but obviously amongst the all-time greats. So Harden's really got to be careful with what he does with himself because there's a lot on the line.
Right. So, yeah, and then that's why making the playoffs this year helps a little bit just to have that on his resume. But switching gears,
and
guys.
it's a huge stain if he doesn't. Huge stain.
Oh, no question. But I do want to switch gears and talk about more of a social issue. Charles Barkley came out and said that the NBA should move their All-Star game out of North Carolina next year, out of Charlotte next year, because of the North Carolina laws that were passed discriminating against homosexuals and transgendered people. Want to get your guys' thought, but
Manny Pacquiao's not running for that seat in Congress, right?
I'm very, I have a very big opinion about stuff like this. And Barkley said the same thing a few years ago about the NCAA Final Four, which is in Indianapolis, because Indiana did something similar. I love it when you have huge organizations like this that have fans that are in the national spotlight. They generate millions and billions of dollars that throw their weight around it to show how inclusive they are to their fans. I love this, and I think more of this should happen in the world of sports and entertainment. And the fact that Barkley, who has a big voice, is vocal about it too, is very, very huge for me. So for me, it was a great thing.
Who's not vocal about it is Commissioner Silver and a lot of the owners. And there is this whole other side to the game, which is, more people should be speaking out, supporting Barkley's comments. More people should be fighting for equality, not across race lines, but across gender lines and across socioeconomic lines and all of that. And so for me, we always talk about the fact that, Jordan never picked political sides because it helped, shoe sales. And we've always known that LeBron treads carefully, and as does any, Kobe and all these guys that have large followings. They've got to be careful to not upset their fan base. But in this instance, you would hope that the NBA, essentially doesn't just sort of sit on the fence and act like, it can't offend any of its owners. And it should just come out and say, look, you know what? If the Congress doesn't act and behave accordingly, we're going to have to step in and consider another location. But then again, they could also be taken to court by the state because they've obviously had a number of contracts and agreements signed. And so the NBA, is in an awkward position in some ways in that it wants to obviously adhere to social movements, but it also doesn't want to alienate anybody. And if the state of North Carolina feels that this is in its people's interests, then that essentially means that those who support the Hornets in many ways are also in agreement with this. I mean, that's who the fan base is and where they're located. And maybe outside of Charlotte, sure, might feel a little differently, and metropolitan areas and rural areas often conflict in these ways, traditional beliefs. But, again, the NBA needs to use its voice carefully and cautiously and wisely. And for Barkley to say this, I think he's on the money. And it'd be awesome to see the momentum build as we get closer to that All-Star weekend. And I would like to see Silver come out and make an official stance and represent the NBA the way the NBA should be representative of these issues.
I don't think pulling the All-Star game is a good idea, to be honest, out of Charlotte, just because, you got a fan base there that's and a team there that's kind of deserving of it right now. And regardless of what political agenda is going on over there, political issues that are going on, I think maybe you can put on an all-star game and then promote gender equality. Have some drag dancers, or do something that you can kind of celebrate. What? No, I'm serious. Have them celebrate.
That's window dressing, Mo. When organizations do that, that's just window dressing. It really is.
I just think it's a dangerous game to time out here. It's dangerous to kind of play sports and politics all at the same time. There are moments I think where people should stand up, but if you start kind of, it's just a dangerous.
But you can't move it out of the.
You can't separate them. We're now in a world where they can't be separated. And more to the point though is, what if the players decide they don't want to stand for this, and all of the players don't show up for the All-Star game? Then you're left with an empty arena and players who don't want to participate because they don't agree with the laws.
I think that'd be a little bit drastic. I mean, to have players boycott the All-Star game, I don't know what the these bargaining agreements and all of the rules are regarding that stuff. I'm pretty sure that you can't just go ahead and do that.
But that's a real stance. And the NBA, my point is that the NBA
right. I mean, you're not going to have an empty arena though. You have to find out what the laws are.
Work with the union and then make an announcement about what they're going to do about it, and then everyone's got to fall on that side.
Fair enough. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we have the halftime show. You listen to the Full Court Report. Don't go away. Back after this.
Welcome to the initial episode of No Holds Barred with the Dean, Finito Henson. We ask the questions, you get the answers.
Did you feel rough that you didn't get the Best Import Award?
I won Best Import.
If you were the commissioner of the PBA for a day, what would be the first thing you'd do?
I'm not telling you nothing.
Tell us, Leland, last November, when Samboy, your husband, suffered cardiac arrest, what was your feeling? How were you able to cope And what kind of magnitude of expenses are you facing?
It's not good.
All right, guys, welcome to the halftime segment of the Full Court Report. Look, the People vs. O.J. Simpson American Crime Story has become the talk of TV town, and I wanted to see which real-life events, be from our own lives, part of our national identities, just something that we're sort of really keen to see sort of adapted, get sort of turned into something that's become serialized. So I'm going to ask all my fellow co-hosts here what they would like to see become a kick-ass TV series based on a real-life event. But before I seek out their scintillating responses, I want to remind everybody that, whether you're listening, watching, whatever, it's hard to recreate this stuff. That, if you're going to take, what is essentially a dramatic event and try to sort of, clean it up and fix it up for television, that thing ain't easy, man. So with that being said, Chris, let's go to you. What have you got? What would you like to see the studios attempt to take from real life and put into a serialized TV show?
Sure. Well, for me, it's pretty simple, and they need to start in 1970 when there was this amazing horse with 3 socks named Secretariat was born, and the culmination of his life as a young foal to a 2-year-old to obviously the apex of his career, winning the Triple Crown, breaking the record at all 3 races of the Triple Crown, to even into his stud career, which lasted another 16 years, and just going through the whole stud career. That must have been amazing for him. So I want to see a television show about the greatest athlete of all time, and that's Secretariat.
Oh my goodness. Wow. All right, Chris. Look, it sounds like, what happens is, take a show like Mad Men, right? Like all the guys that worked at the ad agency used to go out of their way to show up to the castings of all the models because they just wanted to perv on attractive women. It sounds to me like you just want to check out the castings of these horses and look at these magnificent creatures in person and watch them running around the paddocks and stuff.
They are magnificent.
Chris, I don't know what to say. Again, you referenced horse racing, so kudos to you for being a fan and keeping that gambling industry afloat, I guess, in at least on this show. Gino, what about you? What would you like to see? Real life event turned into a TV series. What's on your mind?
You know what? What's strange? I mean, I get infatuated with things that are kind of like you don't know too much about. And
Sure.
and so the life of somebody. I mean, I know we've seen. I know some of you guys have probably seen the movie The Interview, which I don't think is very accurate at all to how Kim Jong-un has, what his background is. But
North Korea is not like that at all. I mean, right.
So I mean, I would be interested to see actually his actual life story, like exactly what happened. Like, I mean, you're talking about a guy who studied in the Western world but grew up
Right.
in a very closed society, and I would just so. I'd be so interested to see how, what kind of demons or what kind of things goes through his head when he's seen both sides of the fence. So something like that. I know it's a little strange and it's probably not very common.
good.
But it's I
Right. I mean, any sort of like high-level political leader, especially when they run a dictatorship, I mean, their day-to-day life must be at least in some way fascinating to the outside world. And who knows what his advisors are telling him? Like maybe 90% of his day is spent playing video games and ping pong. I mean, who knows what the hell the guy gets up to? No one's allowed to sort of go behind those emperor's doors, so to speak. So good choice, Gino. I like that. I would definitely watch that series ahead of the Secretariat thing that Chris already nominated. So Mo, what about you? What have you got happening over there?
I think I'm gonna just jump off of Gino's here and go political a little bit. I mean, Brad, you know, you lived in my home for a month here recently, and you saw that I'm all eyes on the presidential election, man. It's the first thing I go to. It's all day long. I listen to everything that's going on, and I think either a movie about Donald Trump's like run here for the presidency, or maybe just kind of like a post-Obama presidency TV show, just to see what that's kind of like. I think I'm leaning towards the Trump one because I think he's just doing so much better than everybody thought he would. And to kind of turn into a front-runner here is really just mind-boggling considering all the crap that comes out of his mouth, man. And I just really want to see a TV show
you would
based
love
on
to
the
see what he looks like at 10 p.m. at night in his sweatpants on the lounge, flicking through TV channels. Like, who is the real Donald Trump?
And I think the ratings are going to be huge. Yeah, sorry, what?
Yeah.
Can we wait 10 years at least? Because we're already living that nightmare with Trump. So let's
Yeah,
wait 10
you're
years
already,
before
it's
that
already
show comes
effed out already. Yeah, you don't want to.
come on,
Yeah,
man.
you're right. I'll wait a couple years though.
Wow. All right, guys. Look, before I throw out mine, I just want to let you know that in Australia, we do this a lot. We take a lot of sort of real-life events and try to recreate them, using tiny budgets, and they often look, feel, and play out as sort of poor representations. Hearts are often in the right place, but the pockets just aren't deep enough to make this stuff sort of translate into, real TV magic. So for me, given that it is an obsession, one thing I would like to see is the New Zealand rugby team, the All Blacks. I would love to see them and their global dominance and, get sort of an inside look at who these people are and what they represent in terms of a nation and how they've become so dominant and what the actual, mechanisms are that are at play here. And seeing an All Blacks documentary, a tell-all thing would be a dream of mine. I'd love to see it be an ongoing series.
That does the haka dance or something like that?
Yes. Does the warrior
that's a very,
dance,
very
the
powerful
traditional
dance.
Yeah. Very strong visuals,
or something like that, right? Has that little kind of thing. It's awesome.
Jonah Lomu too, right?
Even their basketball team does that haka dance.
Yeah, they did that in
They
front
do
of
that,
the
at
USA
weddings.
team.
I just saw a YouTube video of them doing it at weddings.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I got to do that.
It's traditional and it's tribal and it's really important to them and it's a real sense of pride. But anyways, the team means a lot to that country and I just think it would make for a great ongoing TV series to see them at practice, see them traveling, see them just destroy the competition and see who they are. Like what these Warriors are actually about. So I think we've got to get out of here. That's it.
Yeah,
Thanks for listening to halftime. Let's get back to the third quarter. Let's make it happen.
Yep, back after this.
He has made viewers laugh with his funny antics and awesome style in comedy. He has also been in quite a few headlines himself. Well, funny man Arnel Ignacio loves good times too. Curious if he has funny secrets he'd like to spill? Then head on to www.tv5.com.ph/originals and watch Good Times with Mo. Thursday, 9 p.m. on Digital 5. Call us on our hotline, also on Viber and Skype.
All right, welcome back to the Full Court Report, second half, and leading the way is Gino Rufino. Sorry, Metro Manila, Philippines. Look at my lineup here. You got third quarter duties, my friend. I got a brain fart there. I was like, who's in the third? Oh, Gino's in the third. What's going on, my friend? 12 minutes, all you, brother.
Mo, what time is it over there in LA?
Yeah,
I watched a little baseball game. I'm like, oh, okay, there you go. All right, go ahead, my friend. What's up?
All right. A couple episodes ago, we were talking about who this generation's blank is. And, of course, when we were talking about Giannis, who has been, absolutely awesome this past couple of, I would say, weeks, Bradford Graham said, you know what? Giannis is, this generation's, or LeBron James, the new LeBron James is Giannis Antetokounmpo. And guess what?
It's in play. It's in play.
We're talking about how freakishly athletic a person is, and built with some skills and all that kind of stuff. But Brad, since you've said that, the Greek Freak has been playing phenomenal. And after a recent game between the Bucks and the Cavs, Giannis said, if I had the chance, the opportunity to work with him, referring to LeBron, of course I would. But it's not up to me. It's up to LeBron. I think LeBron has 150 times more things to do than me over the summer. That sounds kind of funny, but that's exactly what he said. If he has time, I'll definitely have the time. And then LeBron James said, not to Giannis, but he did tell Cleveland.com that absolutely Giannis and I can work together. Y'all know I got an open door policy. So, gentlemen, I just want to pick your brains a little bit about what your thoughts are on how I guess LeBron James is willing to share his vast knowledge of the game with somebody as young and up and coming like Giannis Antetokounmpo. Brad, you called it. You called it first.
Sure.
So what are your thoughts?
I think in this case, Giannis doesn't necessarily offer a direct threat to LeBron. So I think he's happy to take the mentoring role, help craft him, help get his game where it needs to be. I mean, we've got a long history of NBA players coming back from retirement or even being active and working with young guys. And this isn't new territory for LeBron. I mean, people forget that, in 2010 through to about 2013, every offseason, LeBron and KD used to work out together in LeBron's gym, or they would go down to Miami and put up shots. And a lot of NBA guys, people don't know this, but a lot of NBA teams get together. I know that there was, after the 2012 finals, I know the Spurs and Thunder got together and, they were running scrimmages, during the lockout and stuff. And some of this stuff happens more than we realize it and more than it gets reported. But LeBron offering mentorship, offering to help sort of shape Giannis's game. I mean, holy hell, that could be the end of the NBA if he's going to get this, point guard to come in and be a 6'11" guy like LeBron and learn that, Giannis already has the fundamentals and the raw talent. If LeBron can help get his mind to where it needs to be, I mean, I really just think we should all start buying stock in Giannis.com because, it's just going to go up and up and up. And, man, look, I really can't wait to see what fruit comes from this. I mean, it sounds so promising. It's like I'm sitting here
before I give my opinion here, sorry to cut you off. Is somebody counting money or flipping through pages in the background? I was here.
I can hear that too.
It's driving me crazy. I didn't hear the thing Brad was saying there. But here I got to ask a question for you guys here real quick about this. Is working out with the enemy a good idea, even if it's the off season? I mean, clearly Giannis his game is starting to resemble something like LeBron's. If LeBron's going to go ahead and tutor this guy, I mean, he's not even on your own team. LeBron, why don't you tutor some of the guys on your own squad before he starts?
The answer is no. The answer is no. I hate this sort of crap. These guys today are so buddy-buddy with each other. Unless Giannis is going to be on LeBron's super team next year.
So you're with me, right? You're with me. This kind of rubs you the wrong way. This guy's the enemy, man. What are you doing messing around with the enemy?
You can call me nostalgic all you want, because this is the time that I don't care. You wouldn't have saw this years ago. They would have spit in each other's face if they asked it to work out in the all season.
No, that's right. Look at this. Agreeing again.
Chris, we saw this. Chris, we saw this with Kobe and Michael Jordan, Kobe and Gary Payton. He was asking them for help, and Payton and Jordan and some of the other guys would be willing to do it.
That's why Kobe hated Gary Payton in LA. Didn't they not get along?
No. But this happened when Payton was with the Sonics.
Kobe mentored LeBron in 2008 on playing the right way to play defense or whatever. That was enough for me. Olympic teams are fine, but not going out of your way to work out with an opponent on the offseason. I hate it, man. I hate it. Mo, you're right. Once again, Mo, you're right.
That's right.
Over each other. The point is that they spend their off seasons working out with the best. Why would LeBron put up shots with Dame? With what's his friend from? Was it Dame Jones or whatever the kid's name was?
Jones.
I mean, there are these scrubs that sort of essentially are in the NBA, and these guys don't want to work out with them. There's no improvement there. LeBron guarding Giannis for 3 hours a day over the course of a summer is going to help LeBron as much as it's going to help Giannis.
But it's going to help Giannis. He can work out with a teammate.
Right, but what is he
and
supposed
try
to do? I mean,
he's not a threat.
Supposed to work out with a goddamn teammate. That's what I just said.
This is good.
Work with Kevin Love.
He is a threat.
You know what? He is a threat.
Work on your chemistry with Kevin Love, so both of them can learn something here for your season next season.
Now. Brad, he is a threat now.
He is a threat. I think Giannis and the Bucks are going to be a threat to the Cavs because they're very young and they do have some talent there. They just got off to a very bad start.
Yeah, but that's like saying the Timberwolves are a threat to the Warriors championship hopes. It's like one game, one great performance, one great Carl Anthony Towns isn't going to stop Steph Curry over a 7-game series. The same way Giannis is going to
Brad, we spent weeks together just recently talking about competitive advantage that these players try to have against each other. And then all of a sudden now they're going to be buddy-buddies sharing secrets and stories and all of that stuff.
We've seen this before, and we're going to see it again. These guys want to work out with the best. They want to lift with each other. They want to push each other. They want to develop the games around the best minds, the best talents. These guys spend so much more time with each other than you might realize. They all work out. Like Chris Paul flies cross country to work out with other great point guards. They do drills together. They learn from each other. They teach each other. These guys are trading secrets all day, every day. That's what they do. That's how they got to where they are. And that's how they maintain where they are.
In my opinion, and that's fine.
Some sort of farce, I'm not saying for the NBA.
I'm not saying it's not allowed. I'm saying I hate it. That's all. I mean, that's my opinion. I hate it. And if I were you, if you're going to invest in your game, then invest with your teammates. Invest in chemistry. Invest in skill building. You're the best player on the planet. Teach a guy on your squad.
These aren't, they're all employed by the same company, which is the NBA. This whole idea about them being
that came out of your mouth? That came out of your mouth? That's the new low. That's a new low for you, Brad. No way.
Yeah.
They're all part of this. They're all part of the NBA family. Okay, let's remove technical flagrant fouls. Well, because they're all part of the same family. I mean, come on, man. That's awful.
There's a brotherhood type feeling when it comes to NBA players, and I do think that like Brad's right. We've seen this before. Like I've said, when I saw it with Kobe and Gary Payton and with Kobe and Michael Jordan.
Think that Kobe and Jordan and these guys were in a gym by themselves all summer? No, they called up their friends around the NBA. They brought in guys who they compete against night in and night out, and they sweated and worked out, and they ran two-a-days.
And
these
pushes
guys
them
together and worked together and hung out together, and they ate together, and they did things like a military camp because they all wanted to get better and learn from each other. That's the way the NBA worked. That's the way the NBA's always worked. That's the way the
NBA shouldn't be. This is competitiveness. You think Larry Bird, I'm being nostalgic for a good reason, you think Larry Bird would have accepted this? No, he would have smacked the person's hand away. You know why? Because he's Larry freaking Bird.
You know what?
But he was doing it. He was inviting guys in the summer to work out with him, and he was traveling all over the country working out with them. If you think Larry Bird was shooting around on his own all summer, you're kidding yourself. You don't know the NBA.
He was always playing with Celtics. He didn't play with anyone else. He wouldn't even play with Magic Johnson. They did a commercial together. He wouldn't work out with anyone outside of his team. That's poppycock.
I think it started in the 90s more than anything. Maybe the 80s was a little bit more, and it was a different time as well. Maybe the 80s was more working out with your teammates kind of stuff. And you didn't see the free agency splash that big during the 80s. It really started happening in the mid 90s and onwards. Good point. So anyway, let's move on to my next topic here. Blake Griffin is back.
Speaking of working out and developing muscles,
exactly. So this guy, and you guys said that he would come back and not miss a beat. But in his first game back versus Washington, he had 6 points, 5 rebounds in 25 minutes. Against the Lakers, the first game against the Lakers, they're playing each other right now as well. He had 4 points, 3 rebounds in 17 minutes. Now he has a total of 4 more games before the postseason starts. So I mean, should the Clippers be, I guess, a little bit worrisome that Blake Griffin, they're monitoring his minutes, obviously, because they have to monitor his minutes right now. But with 4 games left before the end of the regular season, how worried are you as a Clipper, if you're a Clippers fan?
Quick question. Did they win?
Today? The game's still ongoing.
Did they win the 2 games that you're talking about with Blake?
Did
they win?
Yeah.
Then no
That's
problem.
a great point.
No problem.
Have they won down the stretch without him?
But still, I mean, don't you think that even though if they're going to win the game, that they'll give Blake a little bit more time on the floor to get some rhythm back? I mean, they're not doing that.
But Gino, the problem with this situation is the Clippers don't have any time up their sleeve. They've either got to throw Griffin into the deep end and hope he can swim. And if he can't and he costs them games, then you've just got to say, hey, this season had a number of injuries and there's nothing we can do about it. And we also have bigger problems. The Clippers might, have Blake's health and his production as an issue. But the truth is, the Clippers' real issue isn't actually Blake Griffin. It's the Warriors, it's the Thunder, it's the Spurs. This Clippers team isn't built to beat those squads, and that's their problem. It's not that Blake's not healthy. Having a healthy Blake puts him in a position to be able to contend with those teams. But Blake trying to learn this in 4 games and get back to the Blake of old, I mean, it seems really, really difficult for him to do. And I know the guy works out and he puts everything he can into these games, but Blake's going to be rusty, and he's probably going to be rusty until maybe the second or third round of the playoffs if they advance that far. But you have to do it. If you're Doc Rivers, your choice is either Blake Griffin gets more minutes or Austin Rivers does. So you've got to go.
Oh, it's going to be Rivers then. Oh, no.
He'll play Rivers the entire game.
Yeah,
but Gino, you said it earlier.
The Spurs and the Thunder aren't their problem. They're not getting past the second round. So, I mean, that's not going to be their problem.
Gino, you said it earlier, and you used the cliche, let's take it 1 game at a time. I think that's really what you got to do here with Blake when it comes to the playoffs. Like, if he's struggling in that game, you're going to take him out. If he's doing well, if he's back to Blake of old, you keep him in. It's these singular games are so important as we get to the first round, second round, third round, and all that I think they're just going to kind of play it by ear. You definitely have him in your starting lineup. He's one of your best players. If he struggles, you pull the plug. Clearly, he's rusty.
What a luxury.
Yep.
Right, and you also got to remember too, for Griffin now, it's about just getting that fine touch back, and it's about him building up his stamina and running at NBA speed again, and doing things that rookies have to do. I mean, he does it in a vacuum, but the point is that he's missed so much NBA this year that he was never going to step back onto the court and just be dominant from the get-go. It's going to take a few games. I don't even think it's about per games. I think it's actually about per plays. I think it's the kinds of plays you run for him to get him back into the rhythm where he wants. I mean, I've seen some of the jumpers he's taken, since he's been back. I mean, they've been horrendous. His shooting stroke looks off. His athleticism isn't quite what it is because he's got that quad strain and whatever it is that he's playing on. So for Griffin, I just think play 1 play at a time, not even 1 game at a time, and basically just work him through the offense and just be mindful that he's out there and try to get him comfortable again because the clock's ticking and this Clippers team has a clear ceiling.
And the
Sounds
clock,
good. All right.
And the clock has wound down to 0. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Let's take a break. When we come back, 4th quarter with Bradford Graham in New York City. Back after this. Don't go away.
Welcome to the initial episode of No Holds Barred with the Dean, Finito Henson. We ask the questions, you get the answers.
Did you feel rough that you didn't get the best import award?
Our best import.
If you were the commissioner of the PBA for a day, what would be the first thing you'd do?
I'm not telling you nothing.
Tell us, Leland, last November, when Samboy, your husband, suffered cardiac arrest, what was your feeling? How were you able to cope? And what kind of magnitude of expenses are you facing?
It's not good.
Welcome back to the Full Court Report. We have the fourth quarter now of our show, and 12 minutes on the clock for you, Brad, in New York. Take it away. What are we talking about?
Thanks, Mo. Look, there's a number of superstars in this league, and it is a superstar-driven league, and so a team should be able to go as far as their superstar can take them. But for any number of reasons, a few superstars that have been, in contention this year, whether it's MVP talk or other trophies or other honors or other legacy issues, have been eliminated from the playoff race. So I want to start there. I want to talk about four guys that, are considered league-wide to be superstars, and how are you going to remember each of their campaigns, what you did not like about them, where do you think they need the most work, and how attractive are these guys to free agents going into next season? So let's start with Carmelo Anthony. Chris, I'm going to go to you in New York.
Sure.
Carmelo, tell me about Carmelo. Where do we stand? How should we feel about his campaign, and what did you not like about Melo from this season?
Carmelo Anthony has become the new Bernard King of the NBA. He's going to put up numbers. He's not going to be able to consistently get to the playoffs, even as they build a little bit around him. I want to see what he and Porzingis do together, but Carmelo is not the type of player who can carry a team on his back anymore. And part of it is just the way he chooses to play offense. Doesn't always fit into the team system, plays that ISO ball, taking those shots down at the end of the shot clock. That's what he's chosen to be. He gets his points, he gets his shots. It looks good on paper. He plays in New York. That's good. Could be good for him. Could be bad for him. It's become bad for him. I don't see him for the rest of his career being a consistent playoff participant. It's just all downhill from here. I don't think he's going to start.
Is he an attractive teammate? I mean, do you think this is the kind of guy that players want to essentially run, an offense with and through? I mean,
he doesn't make the playoffs. Why would they? I mean, LeBron says he likes him and wants to play with him, but outside of that, why would you want to play with this guy other than the allure of playing in New York? But that's not what it's all cracked up to be. The Knicks have been horrible for almost 20 years now. I don't think he can attract too many people. He's proven he can't be a consistent playoff performer.
Chris, how about your thoughts on?
I think people will come to New York and play with him just as long as it's clear that he's not going to be the number one option. He's not going to be the ball hog there. That's what has to happen.
He's going to be the number one
I'm saying
option.
that. Well, listen, that's what has to happen.
Okay,
but that he shouldn't be the number one, or that they have to understand that Carmelo's the number one.
No, if Carmelo can come to terms with what he's not been able to accomplish and say, listen, I need a guy here that is going to be a scoring option number one, or I'm going to at least defer to for a great chunk of the offense aside from Kristaps, then I think because listen, I think it's not going to happen now.
You're
it's
right.
Not gonna happen now, but it can happen. It can happen in the next year or two.
But how about Melo saying that the younger guy that the younger guy should get more playing time and that he should almost not sit out but rest some of the games towards the end of the regular season.
Yeah,
I mean,
rest for
did
what?
Come
Rest
out.
for his golf game this
I know, but
season? I mean, what is he resting for?
What's the point?
He's got to rest because he's got more rest coming up.
Okay. So he needs to rest to prepare himself for whatever's happening in the off season. Basically, is what he's saying.
Right, Gino.
He's a selfish guy, Mo. I mean, he should be deferring, but I don't think he'll agree to any deferring.
Sure, I can see that.
Sorry, Brad. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, Gino, do you still consider Carmelo a top 15 player?
Wow.
No.
That Paul says it all.
That. No.
Moving on.
No.
Maybe not a top 15.
No.
All right, John Wall. What do we think about John Wall? The Wizards probably aren't going to make it. I don't think they're going to make it. Do we not like something about John Wall here? Is this something he needs to work on? Is he attractive to free agents? What are we going to feel about? How should we feel about John Wall's 2015-16 campaign? Mo, I'm going to throw to you.
Well, you're talking about a guy who did 19 and 10. Clearly, some of the numbers are there, some of the production is still there. Across the board, solid still, but again, needs some help. I don't think he's the superstar that is in the same level as all the other superstars that can carry a team almost as individually. He's a guy that needs another legit star on that team, maybe a Kevin Durant, for them to really kind of be all they can be. I mean,
so he's still a classic point guard then. He's still very much the creator rather than the...
kind of like how Westbrook struggles without Kevin Durant, Wall's going to struggle without another superstar there, and that's what has to happen. They have to have some other big gun.
I mean, I love this guy, and he's most effective when he doesn't take too many shots. So, if it's another superstar who's a scorer, yeah, that's fine too. Or if it's a couple other teammates who are scorers, so maybe he doesn't have to be a superstar as long as he's not putting up a lot of shots. There's some, I don't know the exact stat, but when he has less than a certain amount of shots, their winning percentage is very, very good. So when he has to take up the bulk load of the shots, they're just not a winning team. They need to get those players around him. There's some guy out in Oklahoma City who's from that area who might be coming that way. But I love John Wall. He can't shoot as much if they want to win, but if he stays within a certain level, he's a very talented little superstar.
Okay, so Chris, John Wall, still a top 15 player, no longer a top 15 player?
I don't know if he ever was, Brad, but I think he's in the top 25.
Okay, all right. That's a completely different class
30,
of player, but okay, interesting. All right, Mo, Anthony Davis, how are you going to remember what he did this year? Is it going to be just simply about the $25 million that he's not going to earn, or is it going to be more about he looks super promising and given a healthy team, healthy teammates, is he still the most attractive player in the NBA under the age of 25?
I mean, he has to be one of. It's just really the health issue. I mean, I know we've brought it up. Chris and I brought it up a lot here. Calling him, as far as calling him soft, the numbers are there when he's playing. When he's healthy, the numbers are there. It's you can't just kind of. I mean, there's 50% from the field. He's incorporated a 3-point shot now. It's not great, but it's improving. The 24 and 10 with the elite blocks. I mean, he really is. This is true superstardom here, what we're seeing, but we need him to be healthy. And there's a reason why the Pelicans are going to be dispatched here from the, not being able to make it to the playoffs is because their star player and nobody on that team is healthy. But it starts with him. He's got to be able to play 75 games a year.
Yeah.
Season in review, Anthony Davis, still a top 5 player in the NBA.
Wow.
Ooh.
No.
Ooh.
No.
For this season?
Question.
No, he's
for
not.
this
Yes.
season?
Overall.
No,
he's not.
No. So he's fallen out. We went into this season thinking he was top 5. You're saying now he's fallen out.
Yeah.
He's now
I
top
went
10.
into the season
Blake
thinking like top
Griffin.
2.
We went into the season. Blake Griffin and Anthony Davis are MVP candidates. Unbelievable what can happen over
That's
the
what I'm
course of the
saying.
season.
That's what I'm saying. This season, we're looking back. We want to know where these
It's
guys
amazing.
land. And after 82 games, Anthony Davis is no longer one of the 5 best players in basketball. Is that how we feel? Is this accurate?
Sure.
Yes. He is not.
Yeah, especially because of the emergence of Kawhi.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey. That's the reality that Anthony Davis has to face now. All right, so let's go to one last guy before I want to move on to my B topic, and that is the brain fart himself, Mr. DeMarcus Cousins. How are we going to remember Cousins from this year? We had the Kings in a great position for a lot of the campaign, but they just sort of fell off, the second half of the year. Is there things we still like about him, or is the negativity outweighing the positivity? Where do we want to see Cousins go from here? Let's go to Gino. Let's hear what you think about Cousins.
Cousins proved that he is still, I think, in my opinion, anyway, the best big man in the NBA. I mean, he's so versatile. He can do so much things on the floor.
Sure
can. But sometimes you got to take the good with the bad, and kind of like in a Rasheed Wallace type of way that what he brings to the table on the basketball court. But at the same time, it's going to cost you in other ways. And I think if you're the Kings, you got to look closely and really, really think if you're really going to build your franchise and around this guy for the foreseeable future, because who knows what's going to happen with him down the line. But if you ask me top 5 talent, he's close, maybe top 6, top 7. But
I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Because of all the negativity, because of everything that's happened, do you still consider DeMarcus one of the 10 best players in the NBA?
I still think he is. He's that good a player.
You'll take all the negative stuff. You'll take all of the locker room issues. You'll take all of the coach killing. You'll take everything because he's one of the top 10 talents.
Yes.
For that talent
for that
production,
which is
absolutely
interesting because you say he's top 10, yet you don't think the Kings might necessarily build around him. So it's interesting that there's this kind of almost conflict going on with Cousins right now, and I don't know if you can build around a guy like Cousins. Maybe therefore the numbers suggest top 10, but maybe reality is he's not top 10. How can he be top 10 if his value isn't in the top 10 in terms of what franchises want to do with him as their centerpiece?
Yeah, well, that's the
Has he played
double-edged
himself
sword.
out of the top 10? Has his attitude forced him out of the top 10? I mean, do we take all these things into consideration, or is it just sort of numbers based? So that's what's happened to DeMarcus this year, right? I mean, he's gone.
It's interesting that we had the discussion
what
about
happened?
all these players on losing teams this year that could still make All NBA team. So that is, Brad, that's a question that I can't really answer. Of why are all these great players on losing teams this year? It just doesn't add up in a lot of situations.
Well,
a lot of the times it looks like they don't have enough help. I mean, Russell Westbrook is a top five. Russell Westbrook's top 5 player, and again, last season they didn't make the playoffs. It really is. Do you have enough help to just? Maybe it's not a superstar league anymore. Again, we're seeing this with teams like the Spurs, and
don't take
maybe
Chris's
other
favorite term away from him.
Right, I know, but come on, Toronto Raptors, Atlanta Hawks, Boston Celtics, San Antonio Spurs. A lot of these teams don't have bona fide superstars, but they're highly seeded in the playoffs because it is a team game. You need other people on the squad.
All right, let me quickly finish off the show
have
with
superstars.
one last
Let's try to get past this. Oh, they're just a team ball team. They have superstars.
Right. All right. Let me finish on this. So, doing a lot of research for this episode, for the whole season, for everything, I've come to the conclusion that this can only be the third most memorable regular season of the past 25 years. And I want to find out if you guys agree, disagree, and where you sort of stand on this campaign as a whole. Do you think it is the best regular season we've seen in the last 25 years, or do you think other regular seasons hold a candle to it, sunlight to it, whatever the case may be? Am I crazy or am I on point here?
This is third out of 25. You're saying only. That's a pretty good number. So what 2 do you have over it?
All right, so I have the 95-96 season.
Oh, yeah.
Here's 5 quick points. So the Bulls go 72-10, first team to do it. The NBA expanded into Canada for the first time and put 2 teams there. Kevin Garnett joined the NBA out of high school, which changed the game. Magic Johnson come out of retirement and played 32 games for the Lakers. John Stockton became the all-time assistant steals leader in that same season, which obviously is great for the record in history books. Little white guys in little shorts can do a lot of damage in the NBA. So a lot of things happened in that season. Now, the one that I debated a lot, went back and forward on, the one that I think is also ahead of this season. Now, again, let me state this. If the Golden State Warriors get to 73 wins, I think they could be number 2.
Okay.
But until they get to 73, I think the 2007-2008 season is actually just ahead of this year.
Wow. We're on the same page, my man.
Here's a couple of reasons why. New Orleans returned home after Hurricane Katrina and hosted the All-Star Weekend when we finally got the Dwight Howard Superman Act, which changed the way we view Dwight Howard and maybe changed the course of his career. There were big moves galore. Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen joined the Celtics. Pau Gasol joined the Lakers. Shaquille O'Neal was traded from Miami. Jason Kidd joined Dallas. Now, those few moves created 3 different title teams, and it all happened in one season, one trade deadline, one off-season signing. Now, it was the tightest and best MVP race we've seen in the last sort of 20 years. The NBA was forced to play, an overtime game. And the reason why 2007, 2008 ranks ahead of this year is because Kevin Durant and the Sonics left Seattle.
What does Mo think about that one?
I think that was a stupid choice because I didn't hear a lot of stuff on-court stuff. I heard a lot of off-court stuff, and that can make it the best NBA season all time.
Brad, if I had to pick 2, I was thinking those 2. Brad, you and I are on the same page. If I had to pick 2, I was thinking those 2 already. Those are great choices.
So again, honorable mention, 2010, 2011, LeBron takes his talents to South Beach. We know what happened there, but that hysteria hasn't quite matched Steph Curry mania from this year. So 2015, 16, all the storylines from this year, awesome stuff. Anyways, that's my take. If you don't agree, I would love to hear about it on Twitter. Feel free to sort of give us your views and tell us what you think the best regular season of the last 25 years has been.
We also want to hear on Twitter that Mo is Steph Curry's boyfriend. Love that response from someone.
Or mistress. I mean, whichever he prefers.
Lover.
Lover. All right.
Let's take a break, guys. What do you say?
Let's take a break. When we come back, we got overtime. It's Full Court Report. Don't go away.
A Sports5.ph original web show.
My name is Dominic Uy, and this is my buddy Kevin Limhoco.
We are going to be testing products to their nth degree, to their limits.
Cars.
How many car makers are not equipped with power steering?
Gadgets.
You feel the value of that watch.
And everything in between.
I don't like to pamper myself except in a restaurant.
This is the web show for the modern man.
Oh, let's go!
Nth degree. Catch it exclusively on Sports5.ph.
We're heading to overtime here in the Full Court Report, and you may have heard earlier this week that they have announced 3 names that are guaranteed to enter the basketball Hall of Fame, and namely Allen Iverson, Yao Ming, and Shaquille O'Neal. So we want to take this overtime to reflect on the careers of these three, I guess, first ballot Hall of Famers. Guys, are there any surprises to you that maybe a Yao Ming or an Allen Iverson? I think there's no surprise that Shaquille O'Neal made it as a first ballot Hall of Famer, but for perhaps Yao Ming and Allen Iverson to make it as a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I mean, there's no surprise with Allen Iverson, Hall of Famers lights out. But this is why the NBA needs their own Hall of Fame, because it's wearing on me that players like Yao Ming, and I understand his cultural impact and what he did in China, is making the Hall of Fame when there's great NBA players who still haven't made to the Hall of Fame. So I mean, it's just wearing on me. I get it, but the NBA needs their own Hall of Fame and get that up and running.
Yeah, I love Yao, man. I mean, gosh, one of my
Chris,
favorite players at the time. But I mean, come on, I'm 3 years older than Yao. How does a guy like this make it into the
seriously
into the Hall of Fame? Again, love this game, but if we're talking about cultural, give him an award somewhere else, not a Hall of Fame.
Brad, you were saying?
Right, but I mean, isn't this part of the Hall of Fame, though, that there are different departments? Now, again, I haven't seen if Yao's made it strictly on performance, because if it's based on productivity on the NBA court, he doesn't deserve to be there. He never gave us a career, and, he never did enough in the postseason to warrant, didn't make enough first teams. All-Star votes shouldn't count for a Hall of Fame, because that was, China going a billion strong. But for his on-court production, the injuries derailed his career. He was never the great, second coming of Bill Walton or whatever the case may be. So maybe we should start a Not Yao Ming Twitter account and see how that one plays out.
But you guys have to realize. I mean, I know, Chris, you mentioned
culturally he deserves to be there.
Yes, absolutely.
Culturally he deserves to be
absolutely.
there.
What does that mean? Please explain to me what is culturally.
Put it this way. Basketball is fast catching up with soccer, football as one of the most popular as the most popular sport in the game, and it's partly because of how popular the game has gotten in China. Numbers wise, how big China is, their population alone, 2 billion people. You can't argue with those numbers.
Short hair don't care.
And
what does that mean about Yao Ming being in the Hall of Fame?
You're saying facts. How am I going to argue with 2 billion? What does that
I could look that up in an almanac. Tell me, how does that make Yao into the Hall of Fame?
The most watched basketball game in the history of television is USA versus China.
I don't understand what that means. I don't understand the narrative.
I don't care. Then
I'm
put
just
China in the Hall of Fame.
I'm just
put
giving
the
you the
country
cultural.
of China
I'm just giving you the cultural impact of how big this is.
Don't care. It has nothing to do with Yao.
Everything.
Is it because he was tall? Give me something better than, it's just because there's a cultural thing that, China is now a big market for the NBA. It's not Yao, it's China.
NBA needs their own Hall of Fame. Get guys like Mark Aguirre in there,
Yao served
Sidney
as the
Moncrief.
bridge between the two economies. Yao served as both a basketball representative and an ambassador for the global game. He not only helped sort of bring up and rejuvenate interest from a Chinese standpoint. Now, he obviously helped with the broadcast stuff, but what he also did was he helped bring, this Houston team back to prominence. He was the best big man they've had since Hakeem. I mean, for a while there, he was a legit all-star talent. He didn't obviously play well in the postseason, and that's why, he shouldn't be there for productivity reasons. But, he did a lot of things in terms of branding, marketing, in terms of, what he meant in terms of bringing attention to the game, in the same way that the Dream Team toured. They deserve to be in the Hall of Fame for the things that they did. That has nothing to do with the NBA. Sometimes these things are basketball related on a global scale, and Yao was one of the game's and the globe's most recognized figures because of what he did in the NBA. So, I mean, if you can generate billions of dollars, I think
where's Muggsy Bogues in the Hall of Fame? Is Muggsy Bogues in the Hall of Fame, please? Can I get a representation of people who are less than 5'5" and what they've brought?
Nice.
Sure. No, and I don't think that is without, at least an argument or at least without some consideration. I think Bogues, and I think any guy that has an impact on the game, if they change their position, if they play a hybrid position, if they do things we've never seen before, the guy who invented the jump shot, Steph Curry starts shooting 40 feet and doesn't step in any closer. All these things.
We're getting to that now?
Can I get a mascot in the Hall of Fame then? Can I get all these other things?
Buzz, isn't there one named Buzz? Get him in the Hall of Fame.
Come on.
So now the jump shot inventor should be in the Hall of Fame.
The Laker girls have to be in the Hall of Fame
they
too.
should be. No, Mo, I disagree with you on that one. You're sarcastic, but I agree they should be in. I mean, seriously, what are we doing here? It's like we've bastardized the whole Hall of Fame here. Hall of Fame is supposed to be the elite of the elite on the court, or the best coaches.
But that's what I'm saying. No, Chris, but that's what I'm saying. There are actually clear-cut categories here. There are distinctions. Look, there are coaches, there are broadcasters, there is lots of ways to get into the Hall. It doesn't have to just be on court. What I'm saying is if they say that Yao made it for his on-court stuff, then I'm not happy with it.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not a good thing.
No, but if he makes it as a cultural representative, I think that's fine. I think he deserves to be there on a cultural level, but I don't think he should be there for production. I don't think his numbers match Shaq's and Iverson's and everyone else who is currently in the Hall of Fame.
And I think that's
so we'll have to wait and see what the distinction is.
When you read all the articles about the Hall of Fame candidates, that's what you really read. That's that stands out about Yao. They don't really talk. They always mention that his NBA career was derailed with injuries, and he's there more as an ambassador to the game more than
because it's facts.
It is facts.
It's exactly the case. He didn't have a great NBA career. He had a very good one in a short
period. He had a good one, but not a Hall of Fame one for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. A quick question. Do we have time? How much time do we got left, Gino?
We have time. Oh, sorry. The time in overtime is over. But go ahead.
It's over.
Go ahead.
All right. No, I mean, okay. Listen, I understand also that if a player contributes to the game of basketball and puts great stats in other leagues like Arvydas Sabonis did, I think for Lithuania, that he should be in the Hall of Fame as he is in the Hall of Fame. But I think Yao still did not have a career internationally like a guy like a Sabonis did, so hence should not be in the Hall of Fame. Again, I'm keeping my mind open that it's not just about the NBA, it's about basketball in general.
Of the Chinese program. Remember, you forget Chinese basketball wouldn't let him come to the NBA.
Are they Olympic champs? Did they win an Olympic medal? Did China win an Olympic gold in
he was
basketball?
a massive bridge between two nations that hadn't talked before. I mean, the NBA has done a lot for the US and vice versa. I think Yao deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I just don't think you should have put him in this year, and I don't think he should be there for basketball on-court reasons.
He should be there as an ambassador. But remember, with the NBA Global Games, the number one destination for the NBA is always China. More than any European country, more than any American country.
U.S. ambassador to China, put him in the Hall of Fame. Or the Chinese ambassador to the
I'm just saying. I'm just pointing it out.
Why are you saying?
I'm just pointing it out that because of the numbers of China, that's the reason why they keep the NBA Global Games
because they have 2 billion people.
Yeah, that's it.
There's so many weird narratives in this conversation. There's so many weird narratives here.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But on court, I don't think he belongs there.
You know what? Take the Geno's Twitter account and let him know if you think Yao should be in the Hall or not.
You mean don't bother us, bother Gino about it. All right, let's wrap up tonight's episode.
Yeah, let's see if Gino can get 2 billion Chinese tweets on his account.
Sure. I want to thank the guys here for a good show. Let's go ahead and run the room and give our final word or a plug for your social media accounts. Gino, what's up, buddy?
It's at Gino Rufino, JINNORUFINO. And please, any Yao Ming fans out there, let me know basketball-wise why he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. On-court basketball.
Mm-hmm. All right, Chris.
It's at Not Bill Walton. It's not the best Twitter feed, but its cultural impact deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. So, guys, put me in.
Co-New Yorker for tonight, Brad Graham. What's up?
You can follow me on Twitter at @BackpackBaller. And if I'm not active on there at the moment, it's because I'm in transit, and New York's just too exciting to be paying attention to Twitter right now.
World tour.
Sure.
World tour.
You can get me on Instagram and Twitter at DJ Mo Twister. Again, not a little shout out to the staff here. I know that we're wrapping up our season here, so I want to make sure I do this each and every episode. All the guys out there who work hard on this program, we appreciate you so very much. The listeners as well, thank you for downloading our show and continuing to support us and spread the word with your friends. And the people who interact with us on Twitter.
Mo, this has been the greatest basketball season ever because our show's been a part of this season. And
there you go. See?
There you go.
I like that more. All right. So if you want to interact with us, it's at Full Court Report on Twitter. Have a great day. We'll see you guys on Sunday night U.S. time, Monday morning, Philippines and Australia. Till then, have a great week. Bye, everybody.